Hello, everyone. Happy Black History Month. Hey, month for the people. Hope you all are still doing well as always, doing whatever you need to do, whether you wear your mask, whether you get the vaccine, whether you get boosted, whether you don't, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And you don't bother people who do or who don't. All right? With that being said, I am going to be centering everything this month on black things and black artists, black movies, black books. I'm going to try and mix it up. I'm going to try and talk about some books this month as well. I have been reading for a long time by Maya Angelou. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I feel like I haven't even gotten to the first chapter. So we're going to see. And I got some black poetry books by, or at least one by Audre Lorde. I want to say I don't think I have The Color Purple, but knowing me, I probably have it somewhere like secret. And I'm going to order a new one, and then boom, it's going to show up because that's how my life works. But today we're going to compare two movies: the 1972 crime/drama Superfly versus the 2018 Superfly. And so the original stars Ron O'Neal as Priest, Sheila Fraser as Georgia, Carl Lee as Eddie, and Julius Harris as Scatter. All right. I did have to keep that open because I did not put that in my notes, but here is my notes. Okay, I'm going to start off by talking about the controversy of people thinking that Superfly glorified being a drug dealer. And I'm going to tell you right now, I watched both of those movies. I don't want that. They're going to be stress in every job, but not like, hey, I can get murdered stress, or I can get blackmailed, or the police could set me up stress. You know what I mean? There are some stresses that I just wouldn't want. But yeah, when I looked up the Wikipedia about it, I know Freeway Ricky Ross, or would it be Ricky Freeway Ross? But y'all know who I'm talking about. Who Rick Ross took his whole identity from. And I'm like, how did people let him be successful? But hey, I mean, everybody lies when they're rapping, but to take someone's real identity, that's something else. But yeah, there were some drug dealers who were inspired by it. I know that. But I'm gonna be honest with y'all. When I watched both, like I said, it didn't look glamorous to me. It didn't look good to me. But, you know, it was a controversial movie. The remake was very controversial. Well, I feel like it was controversial, but it was more controversial for being a remake versus like the actual message of it. But yeah, I think the message was like a thing because when it came out, Black Panther had just come out, and it's like we have these positive black images, but now we're going back to the drug dealer stories. So yeah, that was the whole thing. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, my overall thoughts, and I'm going to rate the movies. So the pros from the Superfly, the original, Priest, he was still not gun friendly. I said that because I know this is going to upset some people. I did watch the original. I watched the remake and then I watched the original. So that's why I still said he's still not gun friendly, but he was the basis. And I get that for the 1972 version, like they're not as gun happy as we are now, probably. So that was, whatever. But he had a much better swagger and presence. He still wasn't intimidating to me. I mean, if I owed him money, I'm sure he had connections that could, and maybe he would kill me. But he says he never killed anyone. So, I wouldn't be intimidated. But I feel like it made sense here. It's like 1970s. It's not like a whole, well, I don't know anything about like the drug dealer business, but we're more gun happy, I feel like, now than like the 70s. So that made sense to me. He was actually trying to be sensible and not too greedy. He was just trying to have a better life than he has now. And I loved his wardrobe. Especially because, I'm not saying that the new priest didn't change his clothes, but when he changed his clothes in the original, you knew. Everything was different outfit. It was really nice. I really liked it. And it made sense for him, and he stood out because you could tell by the way he dressed, he had money. He was a quiet threat, and I feel like that was better than trying to just make him intimidating like they did in the new movie. But we're gonna get into that. Um, and he was believable as like a small time dealer. Like it wasn't. When I tell you about the new one, I mean the remake, it was a lot flashier. But yeah, it was like, just small town guy. He making money. He looked like he making money, but he's not like maybe I don't know how big Freeway Ricky Ross was, but I don't think he would been like that big or like a Pablo Escobar, like not like that. Like he was just living in the city. He had money, but it wasn't like he owned the government money. Like like he can really have some high up places like Pablo Escobar. It wasn't like that. The world. So when I say the world, I mean like the setting of where the movie was. I loved it. It took place in New York City, and it made sense that it was easier to sell drugs in the city, even though I did do my final project on this about the war on drugs and how they specifically targeted inner cities, even though drugs were also in the suburbs with the white people too. But that's a whole other video I could make. But yeah, but it made sense, because you're in a compact area. New York City is very compact, but things can spread rapidly. People can go. New York City, it's a lot going on. There are all the different boroughs. Like I remember the last time I wanted to go to New York, I wanted to go someplace, but it was too far away from where we were gonna be. So it's like you got opportunities all over the boroughs, all over New York. So I really like that. I think it was very gritty and realistic. It being set in New York and the world engulfed you and it set you in the story. So you feel like you're walking around with them and you are like you're in the city with them. You know what I mean? The montage. I really like the montage. It was kind of like, I'm trying to describe it. It's like they were snapshots. They were just showing you photos of like them going around to different people and stuff. And I really like that. Um, and I like it was like more stylistic than like, of course, in between the two movies, there's a bunch of movie cliches that have formed. You know what I mean? But the montage was kind of like a regular montage in the remake, where it was just like, oh yeah, they're over here. It's like the videos of them, selling and stuff and making money and, you know. But this one, I really liked it. I never seen a montage like that before, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie because it was like different. Uh, my last pro was the story was more straightforward. So it would be like, okay, you meet Priest, he's doing his thing. It's just in a straight line. Now, this is not to say there wasn't random stuff that happened that didn't make any sense, but this story was more straight line. So you would, so things would happen and it would make sense in the order that they happened. I'm gonna give a little spoiler. So, they're trying to pick up the drugs and then they get stopped by cops, but it makes sense because a few scenes ago, uh, they're beating up the cops are beating up one of his associates, one of his priest associates, named Fat Freddy. We're going to talk about him, but this isn't the con. And it's not what you think. It isn't. And so, of course, they're beating him up. So he gives them up and say when they're doing the thing. But it makes sense in the order. And the new one, we'll get to that. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of storylines in the new one. But we'll get to that. But yeah, there weren't as many side stories and twists like the remake. But of course there were. So we're going to get into the cons. Priest is also a con, but in the new one, he's also a pro and a con as well. There was an affair he was having that made no sense to the movie, really. He doesn't even seem really like that interested in the woman. It's a white woman, too. And then that was also the first scene, him in bed with a white woman. But anyway, let's keep going with that. I have thoughts, but I'm just gonna skip over those. I get that he's using her because like he kind of uses her to help him sell drugs, but it didn't really do anything for the plot. And okay, so both movies have a sex scene. This bathtub sex scene, it was like overtly sexual. It was like watching softcore porn, basically. Like, it, and it didn't even make sense, honestly. I mean, I guess it introduced Georgia, who was played by Sheila Frazier. We're gonna talk about Georgia too in a second because she's the next con. But uh, it didn't really add anything to the movie, uh, other than like her kind of being like, "I want to be important to you" or something she was saying. I just watched it last night, but I don't remember what she was saying because I just remember it was a lot. I don't even think it was as long. Well, I don't think it was that long, but it felt like a long time. And I was like, what in the world is going on? Now, I don't mind a love scene, but you could definitely tell when it's something's for men, like the male gaze versus the female gaze. Uh, like, for example, I'll give you a male gaze example. The Harley Quinn in the first Suicide Squad movie, you know, very skimpy, sexy outfit versus her in Birds of Prey. Still sexy outfit, but a little more covered up, a little more frilly, more girly. Like you can tell. That's an example. So just imagine, which I think like all porn is marketed to men anyway. Even though if they say, oh, we're women friendly, unless they really specifically are like um computer, unless they really specifically like trying to market towards women. I feel like honestly, like that's that's what it's gonna be for a lot of sex scenes, unless it's a female director. So, um, and then let's talk about and I said also he didn't give it much depth for Priest. Um, but I mean it was a black black exploitation movie, so I mean I guess that's to be expected. I haven't watched a lot of black exploitation movies. I would like to watch more. Maybe I'll watch another one for this month. We'll see. But I mean, maybe that's the thing. They didn't really give him any depth. Um, Georgia. First of all, let me get to the point. They never, not that I remember. I just watched it this morning. I finished it at 2 in the morning. They did not say her name. I don't think the whole movie. Who is this woman? We don't know. They never say her name. So that was bad. And we really never get to know his relationship with her with any depth. I'm assuming they're married. They never say. Not saying you have to be married to be together, but they never say. She's giving a very surface level personality. Now I did read a little bit about the straight to DVD second one, and it does. I mean, they're together, so I don't know, but they don't really specify it. Let me see if I can. Do they even say? Let me look. I just looked up the cast. So what do they call her? They just call her Georgia. Um, do they call her his wife? No, she's just Georgia. They have Freddie's wife as Freddie's wife. Um, but they don't have anything about Georgia. So, hey, they're probably very serious. I mean, obviously, she knows a lot about his life. So, and this is gonna be a spoiler for the next one. It's Freddie. He has a storyline in the beginning. Then, once again, spoiler alert, he dies in the most anticlimactic way. I think it was such a cop out and an insult. Like, he's like, and then on top of that, they never talk about him the rest of the movie. He dies, and then nobody talks about him. No one. When another character passes away, when another character gets killed, they talk about him. I'm not gonna say who, so I don't spoil too much for y'all. But they don't talk about Freddy ever again. Like, that man dies. I won't tell you how he dies, but if you watch it, you're gonna be very disappointed. I was disappointed. I was like, oh really? That's how he's gonna die? And I know it's the 1970s, so it didn't look like a good filmed. But of course, we have advancement in technology now. But yeah, it wasn't good. And then the story, they had like random stuff in the story that didn't make sense. For example, him being a martial arts, like his martial arts training, we're sitting this show to make sense. If we just knew karate and that's how he fought, I wouldn't be like, well, when did he find? When did he make? I never would go into the movie and be like, oh, when did he learn karate or martial arts? It's just a fight scene. I don't care. But they showed it. What else was there? Oh yeah, and the storyline with the mistress ended anticlimactically. Once again, another ending of a relationship that didn't really do anything. Um, and the ending was so abrupt, and it kind of left it semi-open. Like you assume that everything works out for him, but it just ends. It just ends. It's like a major thing happens, and then it's over. Um, and you can assume what happens, but it never gives you satisfaction of a complete ending. Even if, let's say, I'm trying not to spoil too much if you want to watch it. It's on HBO Max, by the way, if you have a subscription. That's why I watched it. I'm trying to make it, but it's like, something intense really happens, and, uh, you know, Priest, he ends up on top, like, obviously. But then it ends, and then that's it. And I mean, but yeah, that's how I thought. And then I'm going to talk about another con that I did not write in my notes, but I noticed it a lot. And I think it's just because the movie's old. I think it's just because the movie's old. But sometimes the lips and the words, they wasn't matching. Or if you could kind of tell that they did a voiceover for some scenes, and then the character was talking, but it didn't sound like it matched. But like I said, it's an old movie, so. But overall thoughts, they only said Superfly once, which was good. You'll understand what I mean when I go into the next movie. I mean the next version of the movie. I think it was an okay movie. I think the look of Priest and the world around him is what people like most about it, because the story isn't great overall. At least not to me. Maybe when it came out, people really loved it. Apparently they did. It was like the highest grossing black exploitation movie ever. So, I mean, hey, somebody liked it. Um, yeah, so I would give it a 6 out of 10. Otherwise, I would give it 5 out of 10. But only because Priest is better styled in this one, the storyline, even with some of his faults, made more sense than the remake. But I mean, if you just want to kill an hour and 30 minutes and you've never seen it, I don't know. It wasn't life changing for me, so, but maybe it will be for you. So now let's get into the remake, Superfly 2018. I'm gonna start with the pros. Priest was an interesting character in the fact that he had a moral code, even though he was a drug dealer, which I didn't realize when I wrote the notes, because I was like, let me write the notes while I'm thinking and I'm refreshing my brain. But of course, they copied the old one to make the new one, so he still has the same moral code. Although I'm gonna be honest, in 2018, he still has the same moral code. He still hasn't killed anyone. Impossible. Impossible. I'm not saying like I know what drug dealers do, but he was pretty big time in this movie. Okay. He didn't. I mentioned he didn't kill anyone. I thought that was weird for a big time dealer. He was unique to say the least, and personality wise, he was very level headed and very lucky, which we're gonna get into that. It's crazy. He was always trying to keep a low profile and never had enemies. So, oh no, this will be in the con, so I can't say it yet. But the world was set in Atlanta. It was very relatable and tangible, and it was unique and still otherworldly. Like when you have the club scenes, you can tell it was directed by Director X, and he's a music video director, or he started off as a music video director and then directed movies. And you can tell in the club scenes, like those look really good, honestly. So I thought that was really cool, like being someplace where, you could actually go. Like, oh, you're in Atlanta. And you could, and I'm sure they use actual clubs and stuff because I watched this lady, Sharonda from Pay Your Weight, and she was talking about how she noticed like some the clubs, and she could, when she was watching, she could see, oh, I used to go there, I used to go there, and she'd be like, oh, it's not as nice as it. This don't how it normally look. It don't look this nice, but of course it's a movie, so they gotta jazz it up. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then the Snow Patrol, they're like the rival drug dealers, and they were interesting in the way that they dressed. They were all white, and how they moved around the city. They were very flashy. Honestly, they might have been more interesting to focus on than Priest and his gang, because I feel like that angle, I feel like that would have been so much more interesting. You have this drug dealer gang who not only is not low key, but they all dressing in white. So you know that they're all in the same crew. That would have been so much more interesting. They could have made a movie about that instead of just trying to capitalize off Superfly. But that that goes in the cons. So let's do one more thing. Propose. Oh, the cinematography at times was very nice and eye catching, especially the club scenes, like I said, and the snow patrol scenes in their mansion, and it was visually appealing at times. Yeah, I mean the movie looked good some of the time, and I don't think the way that it looked was the negative really. Um, but yeah, and I liked how when they went to the Snow Patrol mansion, like everything was white. Of course, the Snow Patrol. Um, but yeah, it just was like aesthetically pleasing a lot of the time. But now let's go to the cons. Once again, Priest is a con. He was too lucky. And when I say too lucky, I mean like supernaturally lucky. Like, how do you, how does all these things work out for you? Like that. I feel like I probably talked about it. He never killed anyone, never shot anyone. He was skilled at martial arts to a cartoon degree, to a cartoon like degree, like insanely, like how, like people would come with a gun and he would subdue them. Just that. That's how he would subdue them. Just, I mean, he did use a weapon in one of them, but it wasn't a gun. He used like a baton thing. It wasn't a gun, even though it's 2018. And as far as I know, there are a lot of drug dealers with like guns, especially nowadays. That wasn't too far. That wasn't too long ago. But yeah, and the hair was something. Now, granted, the original Priest had a perm as well. This priest had like a pompadour. I don't know. I feel like if you're in Atlanta, why not give him like a fade, with like a curly top, or like a just a regular fade, like Atlanta, like Atlanta men would look like. Like, I don't know. They had to do something. His looks weren't super unique. I feel like he wore a lot of black, because I don't really remember the wardrobe that much. And he wasn't intimidating as a drug dealer. Like, people were really afraid of this man. I think it might have been just the power that he had. But like, from the beginning scene, he was trying to intimidate someone, and it might have been the script too. It might have, I don't know. Oh yeah, and it stars Trevor Jackson, um, and Jason Mitchell, who he has a lot of issues, so I'm not gonna get into that. But yeah, Trevor Jackson is Priest, and maybe it's him. I don't know. But yeah, he wasn't intimidating. So from the beginning scene, I didn't think he was scary. I didn't. His relationship with Georgia and Cynthia seemed like it was just a way to make an overtly sexually sex scene. Like I said, a lot of people complained about it, and it didn't really make sense to me either. Because, like I said, Sharonda from Paraguay already reviewed this and said it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It didn't move the story forward. It was just for men to see a man with two women in the shower. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but it was just weird. I mean, it wasn't. I feel like I wasn't as uncomfortable as when I was watching the 1972 one. That was really like, because I was like watching it like, when is this gonna end? So at least it wasn't like that. I wasn't uncomfortable. So, um, here we go. And Cynthia didn't really fit into his like self-righteous, I don't kill people, I don't do this, I don't do that kind of drug dealer way. She was more like, oh, we need to get this money, we need to intimidate people, we did it. Georgia was like more level-headed and stuff, so it didn't really make sense for her to be there, to me anyway. I think it's just like, again, for men to see a man with two women, that's it. um and yeah, I don't think he sold it for me as a drug dealer, as a protagonist. He didn't really sell it for me. You got the police on his side, then not on his side. It was a lot going on, and the ending tied up things too perfectly. Which I'm going to talk about is saying the movie title. Now, usually this is done in a clever and discreet way as a nod to the viewers. Like in the first movie, some guy takes the cocaine and is like, "Ooh, this is Superfly," like 1970s, and that was cute. And it was only that one time. I counted. They said it 3 times, and like really obviously, like they want to be us. We're Superfly. It's like they say it 3 times. It was too many. 3 times too many. And it seemed like they were trying hard to connect the Superfly brand when the movie could have just been its own thing. Honestly, it could have just been its own thing. Okay. Making it a remake in the first place. This movie could have just been any other drug dealer movie. It really could have. But the makers thought it would be a cash grab to name it Superfly. Now, I watched it for free on Tubi, but it expired already. But they was on Tubi before it expired, and then they brought it back. So if you want to watch it, just if you have Tubi, watch out for it. It might come back. I feel like if it's come back twice already, they'll put it back. So I would say do not pay to look at this movie. Don't do it. Yeah, it didn't really need to be a remake, but I guess less people would have saw it otherwise, because then it was just playing on just another drug dealer movie, which it was kind of anyway. The pacing of this movie was so atrocious. The beginning felt like filler. The actors started off like in the second half, but then it felt like it was rushed. Like it was a chase scene, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, chase scene!" I was really happy. I was excited if something was happening. Not saying that there weren't like things happening before, but I felt like it was kind of creeping along. Yeah, because it was all exciting, and then it was like over like pretty much after like 20 or 30 minutes after that. There was too many different stories at once, and the ending where all the action was ended too fast, and like I said before, everything ended too perfectly. Like he was able to basically, he was having issues with the snow patrol, so he took care of that. He was having issues with the police, so he took care of that. Like everything, you just take care of, and you're just off into the sunset. Like everything. So that was something to me. And the snow patrol, I know we're not supposed to be rooting for them, but they seemed way more interesting than Priest and his gang. I honestly felt like a movie just about them would have been more interesting. They were wasted as just being villains to Priest's self-righteous drug dealer character. Also, I highly doubt there was no one left of the Snow Patrol at the end of the movie. Like, y'all got rid of all of them? There gotta be some. Why would all the Snow Patrol people go to one place together? I'm not gonna say what happens to them, because I don't want to spoil it. If you want to rent it, I like I said, I don't think you should pay for it, but if you want to, rent it on YouTube or whatever for $4. I don't know. It's like $4 or $3.99 or something. But you mean to tell me everyone who was in Snow Patrol went to the same location together? There was nobody like, I'm gonna stay back just in case. Yeah, okay. But I feel like that would have been much much more interesting to focus on them because of the way they looked and like they were just so flashy. They weren't shy about anything. They wanted to be known. They wanted to be out there. So my overall thoughts, I think the writing of this movie wasn't good in the first half, and the backstory wasn't super fleshed out. But the ending was what hooked me. Then it was over. So it was a good movie if you're bored and it's on Tubi for free. Why not? But overall, I wouldn't have paid to see it or rent it. I guess if I ever out of 10, not the worst directed movie I've ever seen, but still meh. It was relying on nostalgia, but it had potential if pacing and writing was done better. To be like a BET classic, lol. You know, okay, like you watch Baby Boy every day on BET. Things like that. So those are my thoughts on both Superflies, but both of them weren't really like, oh, I want to watch these again kind of movies. It was like, But with that being said, I wrote my first poem of the year because I've been writing stories, and I called it, guess what, Superfly. But I really wanted to write a poem, so here we go. I wrote it for both movies. You think you're the man, you think you're untouchable. Superfly from head to toe. Superfly because you had no enemies. But now you've got a target on your head. But now you gotta get out or end up dead. Some of these I didn't mean to rhyme, but they do. So here we go. Got your swagger on, but no protection. Got your swagger on, but no loyal crew. Superfly from head to toe. Superfly because you got a lot of money, but now you're trying to get out. But now you're trying to change. Can't be Superfly as a regular guy. Can't be Superfly unnoticed. Superfly from head to toe. Superfly getting away with all your sins. You're so lucky. You're a star, like Britney said. Crazy cause you were almost dead. Well, mostly in the new one, there were a lot of times he was about to get the, but he didn't, cause he just that magical, and had that much good luck. In the original one, no, he didn't have any like run-ins. Not with him. With Eddie, Eddie did have almost. He was almost, but not Superfly, not Priest. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this review. If you want to watch these movies, just to say that you have, I said go ahead as long as you can watch them both for free. I know you pay for HBO Max subscription, but you know what I mean. It's free-ish. But yeah, if you want to watch those movies, I suggest you watch them for free-ish if you can. And happy Black History Month, and I will see you all next week.